The night was cold in Austin, Texas. The wind carried a sharp chill that seemed to mirror the storm brewing inside the Cooper household. Emily Parker, 5 months pregnant, stood in the backyard holding her belly, trying to calm her racing heart. She had just discovered text messages on her husband's phone, sweet words meant for another woman. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. Ryan Cooper, her husband of 4 years, stormed out after she confronted him. His face, once gentle, now twisted with rage. "You're nothing but a burden, Emily. Always whining, always clinging. Do you think I don't deserve better?" His words struck her harder than the wind. Emily's voice trembled as she begged, "Ryan, please, I'm carrying our child. Why are you doing this to me?" Her tears sparkled in the dim porch light, but Ryan's eyes showed no mercy. Behind him, Sophia Miller, the young receptionist from his office, leaned against the doorframe with a smug smile. She didn't say a word, but her presence screamed victory. Ryan's anger boiled over. In one sudden motion, he shoved Emily. Her body crashed against the thick oak tree in the yard. A sharp cry escaped her lips as pain surged through her body. She collapsed to the ground, clutching her stomach, praying desperately that her baby would survive. For a moment, the world went silent, except for Emily's ragged breathing. Her vision blurred. She could hear Sophia's cold laugh in the background. "She's pathetic, Ryan. Just leave her. She's only holding you back." Emily struggled to lift her head, her eyes locked on Ryan's face, searching for even a flicker of regret. Instead, he looked down at her with disgust. "You're finished, Emily. From now on, it's me and Sophia. Sign the divorce papers, or you'll regret it." Her heart shattered. The man she once trusted with her life now treated her like trash. Her body trembled, both from the cold and from fear. She tried to speak, but her lips quivered too much to form words. At that very moment, a faint sound came from the neighbor's window. Someone was watching. A phone camera glowed faintly, recording every second of the brutal scene. Emily didn't notice, but destiny was silently shifting. The truth of this night would not remain hidden forever. As Emily lay on the frozen ground, staring up at the tree branches swaying in the night sky, one thought echoed in her mind: why me? Her tears rolled down her cheeks, mixing with the dirt. She wanted to scream, to fight back, but her body betrayed her. Sophia stepped closer, crouching down to whisper into Emily's ear, her voice dripping with poison. "He's mine now. You're just the past." Emily's hands curled into fists, her nails digging into the soil. She was broken, but deep inside, a spark of defiance flickered. This night would not be the end of her story. Because someone had seen everything, and soon the world would know what Ryan Cooper had done. Before her world collapsed, Emily Parker was known as the kind of woman who carried light into every room she entered. At just 27, she had built a modest but fulfilling life in Austin. She worked as a second-grade teacher at a local elementary school, where children adored her for her patience and warmth. Parents trusted her with their little ones because Emily believed every child deserved love, even if they didn't receive it at home. She never dreamed of luxury or glamour. Instead, her happiness came from simple joys: walking through the park with her husband Ryan, baking cookies on Sunday afternoons, or reading children's books aloud while her baby kicked gently inside her belly. To her, family meant everything. She thought Ryan shared the same dream. But beneath the surface, Ryan's heart had already wandered. While Emily poured herself into preparing for motherhood, Ryan complained about money, about stress, about feeling trapped. Emily ignored the warning signs, convincing herself he was just nervous about becoming a father. She never suspected that another woman was already taking her place in his life. Emily's pregnancy wasn't easy. Morning sickness lingered. Her body ached, and yet she still woke up early to teach her students. After school, she carefully decorated the nursery, painting the walls soft yellow and folding tiny clothes with trembling hands. She imagined the day she'd hold her baby in her arms, with Ryan smiling proudly beside her. That dream was the anchor that kept her moving forward. Her friends often warned her that she was too forgiving, too trusting. Emily would laugh and say, "Love is about believing in someone, even when it's hard." But deep down, there was a hidden fear she never voiced, that one day, her love wouldn't be enough. That fear became reality the night Ryan pushed her into the tree. But the truth is, Emily had already been living with silent wounds long before the bruises appeared on her skin. Words can scar just as much as fists. Ryan had chipped away at her confidence, making her believe she was small, unworthy, replaceable. Now, lying in a hospital bed with her body weak and her baby's heartbeat uncertain, Emily faced the darkest moment of her life. She kept asking herself how everything had gone so wrong. How had the man who once held her hand at the altar become the monster who tried to erase her? The nurses spoke gently to her, urging rest, but Emily's mind refused to quiet. Memories of laughter, of promises whispered in the night, played like cruel tricks in her head. She wanted to scream at the universe, to demand answers, but only tears came. Still, something within her refused to break completely. Somewhere deep, a whisper told her that this pain would not define her forever. And as dawn crept through the blinds of her hospital room, Emily's eyes opened with a fragile determination. Because she didn't know it yet, but someone unexpected was about to walk back into her life, changing everything. The sterile white walls of Houston General Hospital became Emily Parker's new reality. The faint smell of disinfectant lingered in the air, mixed with the constant hum of machines that monitored lives hanging in fragile balance. Every beep of the monitor beside her bed reminded Emily of the tiny heart beating inside her, a life too innocent to suffer from the cruelty of adults. Doctors moved quickly around her, whispering terms she barely understood. Stabilize, monitor closely, possible complications. Their words blended into a haze of fear. She wanted to ask questions, but exhaustion dragged her down. Still, one thing was clear. Both her life and her baby's life were at risk. Through the narrow window, Emily could see the skyline of Houston glowing faintly under the early morning light. To anyone else, it was just another city waking up. But for her, it was a battlefield she had never prepared for. Outside these walls, her husband was already moving on with another woman, while she lay broken and forgotten. Nurses checked on her often, their voices soft, their eyes full of pity. Pity cut deeper than anger. Emily hated it, yet she couldn't escape it. She felt like a ghost in her own story, stripped of dignity, waiting for someone else to decide her fate. The hospital itself became symbolic, a place of survival, but also of isolation. In the waiting room, people held flowers and balloons for loved ones. In her room, there was only silence. Ryan never came back after that night. Sophia never called. Emily was alone, except for the life she carried. At night, when the corridors grew quiet, Emily listened to the distant footsteps of doctors and the faint cry of newborns echoing down the hall. Each sound pierced her heart. She should have been preparing for joy, but instead she was trapped in limbo, unsure if tomorrow would bring healing or loss. The backdrop wasn't just the hospital, it was the world outside these walls. Austin, where her home stood empty and cold. Houston, where her body fought to recover. And far away in New York City, the life of a man named Alexander Reed, one she hadn't thought about in years, was thriving in wealth and success. Fate was quietly stitching their paths back together, though Emily couldn't see it yet. The atmosphere around her felt heavy, almost suffocating. Every glance in the mirror showed a woman she barely recognized, pale, swollen-eyed, fragile. But beneath that broken shell, something was stirring. The world had thrown her into darkness, but she wasn't meant to stay there. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of red and gold, Emily heard a knock on her hospital door. It was soft, hesitant, almost careful. Her breath caught. She wasn't expecting anyone. Slowly, she turned her head toward the door. And when it opened, the last person she expected was standing there, looking right at her. While Emily struggled in the hospital, Ryan Cooper lived as though nothing had happened. He told himself he had done nothing wrong, that Emily was weak, that she deserved what she got. In his mind, love was a transaction, and his new prize was Sophia Miller. Ryan's office in Austin had become Sophia's playground. She walked around like she owned the place, her high heels echoing against the marble floor. At 25, Sophia was stunning, long chestnut hair, sharp green eyes, and a smile that could shift from sweet to venomous in seconds. But behind her beauty was ambition. She didn't fall for Ryan because of his charm. She saw him as a stepping stone, a man with just enough wealth and position to give her the life she craved. Ryan fed into her desires. He bought her designer handbags, expensive perfume, and whispered promises of a future together. "You'll have everything you want, Sophia. Once Emily signs those papers, it's just us." He said it with conviction, believing every word, even as guilt clawed faintly at the back of his mind. But Sophia was never satisfied. Each gift only made her hunger for more. She pushed Ryan harder, convincing him Emily was dead weight, an anchor pulling him down. "She's weak, Ryan. She can't keep up with you. She's nothing compared to us," Sophia would whisper, wrapping her arms around his neck like a serpent. Ryan wanted to believe her. It was easier than facing the truth, that he had destroyed a woman who once loved him unconditionally. He masked his shame with arrogance, parading Sophia on his arm at social gatherings, pretending Emily no longer existed. Behind closed doors, however, Ryan was not the confident man he pretended to be. Bills were piling up, his business deals weren't as strong as before, and whispers in the community began to circle. People noticed Emily's absence. Some even asked questions. Ryan brushed them off, but Sophia's eyes narrowed every time his confidence slipped. She didn't sign up for a man losing control. Their cruelty extended beyond words. Ryan froze Emily's bank account, leaving her with nothing while she lay in the hospital. Sophia laughed when he told her, "Good, she'll have no choice but to give up." To them, Emily wasn't a human being anymore. She was an obstacle, and obstacles had to be removed. Yet, cracks were beginning to show. Ryan didn't know about the video recorded by the neighbor. Sophia didn't realize that flaunting her relationship online would soon spark suspicion. Together, they believed they were untouchable, but fate was already weaving a trap around them. One evening, as Ryan and Sophia celebrated with champagne in his sleek apartment, Ryan's phone buzzed with a message that made his face go pale. He didn't say a word, but his hands trembled slightly as he set the phone down. Sophia noticed instantly, her sharp eyes narrowing, because whatever Ryan had just seen was about to shatter the illusion of control they'd both clung to. Days after leaving Emily in the hospital, Ryan Cooper appeared at a family dinner hosted by his parents. Emily's absence was impossible to ignore. His mother, Margaret, asked gently, "Ryan, where's Emily? How is she doing with the pregnancy?" Ryan smirked, swirling the wine in his glass. "Emily? She's not my concern anymore. She couldn't handle the pressure of being with a man like me. She's weak." His words sliced the air like knives, drawing gasps around the table. Sitting proudly beside him was Sophia Miller, dressed in a glittering cocktail dress far too revealing for the occasion. She flashed a smile, resting her hand boldly on Ryan's arm. The message was clear. Emily had been replaced. The room fell silent. Relatives exchanged uncomfortable glances, but no one dared challenge Ryan outright. Everyone knew his temper. Still, the cruelty of flaunting Sophia in such a setting left even his own parents speechless. Sophia leaned in, her voice low but loud enough for the table to hear. "Ryan doesn't need a fragile woman holding him back. He deserves someone who can match his strength." Her eyes gleamed with triumph as she tilted her glass. Margaret's lips trembled. "She's your wife, Ryan, and she's carrying your child. How can you?" Ryan cut her off sharply. "That child doesn't change anything. I'm filing for divorce. Emily can take her pity elsewhere." Whispers rippled around the table. Emily had given her heart, her body, her trust, and here he was, discarding her like trash in front of his own family. It was a humiliation not just private but public, a deliberate erasure of everything she stood for. Across town, Emily sat alone in her hospital room, staring at the ceiling, unaware of the cruel performance being staged at that very moment. But someone at the dinner, a distant cousin, recorded the exchange on their phone. The video captured Ryan's arrogance, Sophia's venom, and the gasps of disbelief from his own family. Within hours, that clip began to circulate quietly among acquaintances. The perfect facade Ryan had built was beginning to crack. The humiliation wasn't just emotional, it was strategic. Sophia pushed Ryan to make his betrayal public so Emily would have no chance of reconciliation, no sympathy. But Sophia underestimated one thing. When cruelty becomes too loud, it attracts attention. The next morning, while sipping coffee, Sophia scrolled through her phone and found comments under a gossip post. "Did you hear what Ryan Cooper did to his pregnant wife? Heartless. Poor Emily." Sophia's smile faltered. She threw her phone aside, masking her unease. Ryan noticed but shrugged it off. "People forget fast. Let them talk." He poured himself another drink, oblivious to the fact that each word, each careless action, was building a case against him. And while Emily remained fragile in the hospital, someone unexpected was about to bring her the truth of what Ryan had done at that dinner. Because when Emily learned how publicly he had shamed her, the fire inside her would finally ignite. When the truth reached Emily, it felt like the final blow. A kind nurse, hesitant but compassionate, showed her the video of Ryan at the dinner. Emily watched as the man she once trusted mocked her, dismissed their unborn child, and paraded Sophia like a trophy. Each word was a dagger, cutting into wounds that hadn't even begun to heal. Her chest tightened, and she could barely breathe. Tears spilled uncontrollably as she clutched her stomach. How could he do this to us? She whispered, her voice breaking. She had sacrificed everything, her youth, her energy, her dreams, believing she was building a family. Now, she realized she had been building a prison. For days, Emily refused to eat. The nurses begged her to stay strong for her baby, but despair drowned out their voices. She stared at the ceiling, motionless, feeling like a hollow shell. The once hopeful woman who painted nursery walls in soft yellow was gone. In her place was someone lost, stripped of dignity, trembling with fear. Nights were the worst. Alone in the hospital room, Emily curled into herself, replaying Ryan's betrayal over and over. She remembered their wedding vows, the promises of forever, and wondered if any of it had ever been real. The cruel laughter of Sophia echoed in her head, taunting her, reminding her she was replaceable. Emily's thoughts grew darker. She questioned her worth, her purpose. Was she strong enough to raise this child alone? Could she even survive the storm that had swallowed her life? Every time she touched her stomach, guilt consumed her. "I'm sorry, baby," she sobbed. "I don't know if I can do this." Her breakdown didn't go unnoticed. Doctors warned that her stress could endanger the pregnancy. The head nurse sat by her bedside one evening, holding her hand. "Emily, you have to fight. Not just for yourself, but for your child. Don't let his cruelty win." But Emily shook her head weakly. "I don't even know who I am anymore. He took everything from me." The silence afterward was heavy. The nurse squeezed her hand tighter. "He didn't take you. You're still here. You just have to find yourself again." Those words lingered, faint but persistent. Somewhere deep inside, Emily felt a flicker of resistance. Yet the despair was too strong to overcome in a single night. She still wept. She still doubted. She still felt like she was drowning. Then one evening, as she lay in darkness, she heard a familiar voice at the door. A voice she hadn't heard in years. Calm yet powerful, carrying warmth she had long forgotten. Emily's eyes widened, her breath catching in her throat. Slowly, she turned her head toward the doorway. Because the man standing there was the last person she ever expected to see again. And he was about to change everything. The door opened slowly, and in walked a tall man in a tailored suit, his presence filling the room before he even spoke. Emily blinked in disbelief. "Alex?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Alexander Reed hadn't changed much, yet everything about him felt different. Once a college friend who shared late-night coffee runs and endless laughter, he was now a man carved by success and experience. His dark hair was neatly styled, his shoulders broad, his gaze steady. He looked like someone who carried the world but didn't let it break him. Emily's mind flooded with memories. Studying in the library, his patient encouragement when she doubted herself, the quiet way he had always noticed her pain. She never knew why their paths drifted apart after college, but seeing him now felt like a lifeline thrown into stormy waters. Alex stepped closer, his eyes softening as he took in her fragile state. "Emily," he said gently, "I came as soon as I heard." Her lips quivered. You know?" He nodded, his jaw tightening. "About Ryan, about what he did, and I couldn't stay silent." Emily turned her face away, shame burning her cheeks. "Everyone knows, don't they? Everyone's laughing at me." But Alex shook his head firmly. "No, they're not laughing. They're horrified, and I won't let you face this alone." His words carried a certainty she hadn't felt in months. For the first time, Emily noticed the details, the expensive watch on his wrist, the air of quiet authority, the way even the nurse seemed to step back respectfully when he entered. This wasn't just Alex, the boy who once made her laugh. This was Alexander Reed, CEO of a thriving tech company in New York, a man of power and influence. She struggled to process it. "Why? Why are you here?" His answer was simple but strong. Because you matter, and because I won't let Ryan destroy you. Tears welled up in her eyes again, but they were different this time, not just from pain, but from the shock of hope. She wanted to believe him, but doubt lingered. I don't know if I can get back up again. He took everything, Alex. My pride, my trust, my future. Alex leaned closer, his voice steady but filled with emotion. He didn't take your future. You still have it, and I'll help you rebuild it, piece by piece, if you'll let me. The room fell silent. Emily's heart raced. No one had stood up for her like this since the nightmare began. She wanted to reach out to accept his hand, but fear kept her frozen. Could she really trust again? Could she allow someone back into her broken world? As she searched Alex's eyes for answers, the monitor beside her beeped louder, startling them both. The nurse rushed in with concern. Emily's body tensed, pain rippling through her abdomen. Alex instinctively reached for her hand, because at that moment, Emily's baby was sending a desperate signal, and everything was about to change once again. The scare with the baby passed after hours of monitoring. Doctors reassured Emily that, while her stress had taken a toll, the baby's heartbeat was steady. Relief washed over her, but so did fear. She knew she couldn't keep living like this. Broken, afraid, and consumed by Ryan's betrayal. Something had to change. Alexander Reed stayed by her side. He didn't push or pry. Instead, he brought quiet strength. Each morning he arrived with fresh flowers for her room. Sometimes he read aloud from her favorite books, his deep voice steadying her restless mind. Other times he simply sat in silence, letting her know she wasn't alone. Slowly, Emily began to eat again. She found herself listening more when the nurses encouraged her. She even caught her reflection in the mirror one day, and instead of turning away, she looked. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen, but somewhere in that reflection, she saw a flicker of the woman she used to be. Alex noticed the change too. One afternoon he set a small box on her bedside table. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a tiny bird pendant. "It's a reminder," he said softly. "You're not caged, Emily. You can fly again." Her fingers trembled as she held the necklace. She hadn't received a gift in years that wasn't tied to manipulation. Ryan's gifts always came with control. This one came with no strings, only encouragement. Tears filled her eyes, but for once, they weren't from sorrow. They were from hope. When Emily was finally discharged, Alex insisted she stay in a quiet apartment he owned in Houston, away from Ryan's reach. It was modern but warm, filled with light. "This is your space," he told her. "A place to heal." Days turned into weeks, and Emily began to rediscover herself. She started journaling, pouring out the pain that had been trapped inside her for years. She took slow walks in the park, breathing in fresh air, her hand resting protectively on her growing belly. With each step, she felt a little stronger. One morning, Alex encouraged her to visit a boutique he trusted. Emily hesitated at first, self-conscious about her changing body, but as she tried on soft dresses and flowing maternity gowns, something shifted. For the first time in months, she saw beauty in herself again. The saleswoman smiled knowingly, whispering, "You look radiant, sweetheart." When Emily walked out of the fitting room in a deep blue dress that framed her bump gracefully, Alex's eyes widened. He stood frozen, his admiration clear. Emily blushed, but inside she felt a spark she thought had died forever. Dignity. This was no longer the woman Ryan had tried to destroy. Piece by piece, Emily was rebuilding herself, guided not by anger, but by resilience. And yet, as she began to rise from the ashes, Ryan was stirring too. Far away in Austin, whispers about his cruelty were spreading faster than he could silence them. And soon, Emily's quiet rebirth would collide head-on with Ryan's crumbling empire. In Houston, Emily's days began to feel different. The shadows that once swallowed her were lifting. She woke each morning with a new rhythm, gentle exercise, journaling, and long talks with Alex over breakfast. Her laughter, once buried beneath grief, began to resurface in small bursts. Alex noticed every flicker of her healing, and he guarded it like a treasure. But while Emily rose quietly, Ryan's world in Austin was cracking wide open. The video from the family dinner had circulated far beyond his control. His clients whispered behind his back, questioning his character. A few canceled contracts, claiming they didn't want to be associated with scandal. Sophia, furious at the shift, pressured him harder. "You promised me luxury, Ryan. Where is it now? I didn't choose you to live in disgrace." Ryan clenched his fists, his voice sharp. "It's just gossip. It'll fade." But inside, doubt gnawed at him. He was losing grip, and the very image he valued most, his reputation, was slipping away. Meanwhile, Emily was preparing for something she never imagined, stepping back into society. Alex had been invited to a charity gala in New York City, a prestigious event where business leaders and socialites gathered. "Come with me," he urged gently. "Not as a statement, not for them, for you, to remind yourself that you still belong in this world." Emily hesitated. The thought of standing in a crowd facing stares and whispers terrified her. But deep down she knew this was more than an invitation. It was a chance to reclaim her dignity. Together, they began to prepare. Alex introduced her to a stylist he trusted. Dresses were carefully chosen to embrace her pregnancy while highlighting her strength. Makeup artists showed her how to soften the tiredness in her eyes, to reveal the beauty that hardship hadn't erased. At first, Emily felt awkward, out of place, but when she caught her reflection in the mirror, she hardly recognized herself. She didn't see the broken woman Ryan left behind. She saw a survivor. Alex watched her closely, his admiration unspoken but undeniable. "You're stronger than you think, Emily," he said softly one evening as they reviewed the gala details. She looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. He wasn't saving her. He was reminding her she could save herself. Still, whispers of Ryan lingered in her mind. Would he see her? Would he regret what he had done? She didn't want his validation, but the thought of him witnessing her strength gave her courage. Back in Austin, Ryan scrolled through social media late at night, jaw tightening when he saw rumors of Alex's growing closeness with Emily. Sophia noticed his unease and snapped, "Don't tell me you're still thinking about her." Ryan said nothing, but his silence betrayed him. Because deep inside, fear was taking root. If Emily truly rose again, he would lose more than his reputation. He would lose control forever. And the moment Emily stepped into that gala with Alex, the entire world would see who had truly won. The night of the New York City gala shimmered with opulence. Chandeliers bathed the grand ballroom in golden light, while a string quartet played softly in the background. Guests arrived in gowns and tuxedos, their laughter mingling with the clinking of champagne glasses. It was the kind of night where reputations were built or destroyed. Alexander Reed entered with quiet confidence, his presence commanding immediate attention. Cameras flashed as the wealthy CEO walked down the red carpet, but tonight the true spotlight wasn't on him. It was on the woman holding his arm, Emily Parker. She appeared in a flowing emerald gown that embraced her pregnancy like a crown rather than a burden. Her hair, softly curled, framed a face that glowed not with fragility, but with resilience. Her steps were steady, graceful, her chin lifted high. The crowd gasped in recognition. Whispers erupted. "Is that Ryan Cooper's wife? Didn't he?" She looks radiant, stronger than ever. For Emily, every step felt like defiance. She remembered lying on the hospital bed, broken and humiliated. Now, with Alex by her side, she was reclaiming the narrative. She wasn't the abandoned wife anymore. She was the woman who rose again. Inside the ballroom, heads turned as they entered. Reporters snapped photos, socialites leaned closer to gossip. Emily ignored the stares. She focused on the warmth of Alex's hand guiding her forward, the steady beat of her heart telling her she belonged here. Far across the city, Ryan and Sophia watched the gala coverage on television. Sophia scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Look at her, parading around like she's somebody. It's pathetic." But Ryan's face told a different story. His jaw tightened, his knuckles whitened around his glass. He couldn't look away from the screen. Emily, his Emily, looked untouchable, regal. And she wasn't standing alone. Alex's presence at her side sent a chill down his spine. For the first time, regret pierced through his arrogance. At the gala, Emily gave a small speech when Alex introduced her to his circle. Her voice trembled at first, but grew stronger with each word. "Life doesn't always go the way we plan. Sometimes we lose what we thought was everything. But sometimes, in the ashes, we find a strength we never knew we had." The audience erupted in applause. Moved by her quiet courage, Alex leaned closer afterward, whispering, "You were perfect." Emily smiled faintly, her heart full of emotions she couldn't name. But the night wasn't over. As she left the stage, a journalist called out a question that silenced the room. Emily, do you have anything to say to Ryan Cooper, the man who left you while you were pregnant? Gasps rippled across the ballroom. Emily froze, her breath caught in her throat. Cameras pointed directly at her, waiting. Alex squeezed her hand, silently urging her to stand tall. And in that split second, Emily knew her answer would either bury her past or set her completely free. The ballroom fell silent. Cameras hovered like hawks, ready to capture every flicker of Emily's expression. She stood still, her emerald gown shimmering under the lights. The journalist's question echoed in her ears. Do you have anything to say to Ryan Cooper, the man who left you while you were pregnant? Emily drew in a deep breath. For a moment, the room seemed to close in on her, the weight of judgment heavy in the air. Then she lifted her chin, her voice steady and clear. Yes, she said, her words cutting through the silence like a blade. I do have something to say to Ryan Cooper. A wave of anticipation swept across the crowd. Phones rose, recording every second. Emily continued, her tone calm but powerful. Ryan thought he could break me. He thought he could discard me and our child as if we were nothing. But what he failed to understand is that strength doesn't come from cruelty. It comes from surviving it. I am not broken, I am not ashamed, and I will not be silenced. The audience erupted into applause, but Emily wasn't finished. Her eyes glistened, her hand resting protectively on her belly. This child deserves a mother who stands tall, and I deserve a life free from chains. Ryan Cooper may have betrayed me, but he will never define me. The words echoed like thunder. The applause grew louder, people rising to their feet. Some clapped, others shouted encouragement. Bravo! Stay strong! That's courage! In that moment, Emily wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for every woman who had ever been humiliated, silenced, or cast aside. She had taken her pain and turned it into power. Across town, Ryan and Sophia watched in horror. Sophia's face twisted with fury. She's making a fool out of you on national television, she spat, throwing her wine glass against the wall. Ryan's eyes stayed locked on the screen, his face pale. Emily's words cut deeper than any wound. She wasn't begging. She wasn't pleading. She was stronger than he had ever seen her. For the first time, regret washed over him like ice water. He muttered under his breath, "What have I done?" But Sophia wouldn't let him sink into guilt. She grabbed his arm sharply. "Don't you dare feel sorry for her. She's turning the world against us. You need to fight back." Ryan swallowed hard, but his confidence was cracking. He had built his power on intimidation and lies, but now the world was watching. And Emily had just exposed him in the most public way possible. Back at the gala, Emily stepped down from the stage, her heart racing. Alex caught her hand, his eyes glowing with pride. "You were incredible," he whispered. Emily exhaled, trembling but relieved. For the first time, she felt truly free of Ryan's shadow. But the night wasn't over. As the crowd began to disperse, a man in a dark suit approached Emily quietly, slipping her an envelope. His words were low but urgent. "Inside is proof of what Ryan has been hiding. And once you see it, everything will change." Emily held the envelope in her trembling hands long after the man in the dark suit disappeared into the crowd. Alex guided her to a quiet corner of the ballroom, concern etched across his face. "Emily, are you all right? Who was that?" Her eyes were fixed on the envelope. "He said it's proof of what Ryan has been hiding." Her voice shook with uncertainty. For a moment she was afraid to open it. What if it was another wound? What if it was too much to bear? But Alex placed his hand over hers. "Whatever it is, you won't face it alone. Open it." With a deep breath, Emily tore the envelope open. Inside were photographs, bank records, and a USB drive. Her hands shook as she flipped through the papers. Offshore accounts, fraudulent transactions, falsified contracts, evidence of Ryan's illegal dealings. Her heart pounded harder with each page. "Oh my God," she whispered. "He's been laundering money. He's stolen from his clients." Alex's jaw tightened. "This isn't just betrayal, Emily. This is criminal. If this gets out, he won't just lose his reputation, he'll lose his freedom." Emily's head spun. For so long she had felt powerless, but now the power shifted into her hands. Ryan hadn't just destroyed their marriage. He had built his empire on lies, and the world deserved to know. Across town, Ryan was already unraveling. His phone buzzed nonstop with angry clients demanding explanations. Rumors of his financial misconduct had begun to circulate after his public humiliation. When Sophia noticed the stack of overdue bills on his desk, her fury erupted. "You told me you had everything under control," she screamed, pacing the apartment. "Do you realize what's happening? If these rumors are true, we're finished." Ryan slammed his fist on the table. "I said I'll fix it." But his voice betrayed fear. Sweat beaded on his forehead, his mind racing with excuses he could no longer believe himself. Sophia sneered. "Fix it? You can't even control your wife, and now she's standing next to a billionaire CEO, making you look like a fool. You think anyone will side with you now? You're drowning, Ryan." The words stung because they were true. For years Ryan thrived on intimidation, but now he was the one cornered. And Sophia, sensing weakness, began to pull away. She wasn't built to stand beside a sinking man. Back at the gala, Emily stared at the documents, her resolve hardening. This was more than revenge, it was justice. Ryan had tried to erase her, but now she held the power to erase everything he had built. Alex leaned closer, his voice calm but firm. "Emily, this is your chance. Not just to stand up to him, but to protect your future and your child. But it won't be easy. He'll fight back." Emily closed the folder, her eyes no longer trembling but burning with determination. Because tomorrow, she would take the first step in exposing Ryan Cooper. And once she did, there would be no turning back. The morning after the gala, Emily woke up in Alex's New York apartment with the folder of evidence on the nightstand beside her. For hours, she had stared at it, her mind racing between fear and resolve. She knew exposing Ryan wouldn't just end his career. It could land him in prison. And yet, she also knew it was the only way to truly break free from his shadow. Alex entered the room with coffee and a reassuring smile. "You don't have to do this alone, Emily. I have lawyers. I have resources. If we move carefully, Ryan won't be able to touch you." Emily nodded, but anxiety swirled in her chest. "It's not just me anymore. I have to think of the baby. What if he tries to come after us? What if he retaliates?" Alex's expression hardened. "Then he'll find out he picked the wrong battle. I'll make sure you're protected." His tone carried a steel she hadn't noticed before, a quiet promise that gave her strength. Meanwhile in Austin, Ryan was spiraling. He sat at his office desk, staring at piles of bills and unanswered calls. Sophia leaned against the window, arms crossed, her voice dripping with irritation. "Do you realize Emily is working with Alex Reed? Do you know who he is? That man could bury you with a single press conference." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "Emily doesn't have the guts. She's weak, always has been." Sophia laughed coldly. "Weak? Did you not see her last night? She looked stronger than ever. And if she has evidence, and she probably does, you're finished. We're both finished." Her words hit him like a thunderclap. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Sophia snapped, "that you need to silence her before she ruins everything." Ryan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "And how exactly do you suggest I do that?" Sophia's lips curved into a sly smile. "You've always been ruthless. Don't stop now. Find her, shut her down, take back control." Ryan hesitated, but desperation was taking over. He had built his life on arrogance, but now fear pushed him into darker thoughts. He picked up his phone and made a call to a private investigator. "Find Emily. I don't care what it takes. I need to know what she has." Back in New York, Emily sat across from Alex's lawyer, a sharp woman named Claire. She laid the documents on the table, her hands trembling. Claire's eyes widened as she flipped through them. This is enough to destroy him. But Emily, once we release this, there's no turning back. He will come after you." Emily's heart raced, but her voice was steady. "Let him. I've lived in fear long enough. It ends now." As the meeting ended, Emily felt a surge of courage, a fire she hadn't felt in months. But across the country, Ryan hung up the phone with a chilling smile. Because the investigator had already found a lead, and Ryan was preparing to strike before Emily could make her move. 2 nights after Emily met with Alex's lawyer, a heavy knock echoed through the hallway of Alex's apartment building in New York. Emily froze on the couch, her heart leaping into her throat. The knock came again, harder this time. Alex walked to the door cautiously, his instincts sharp. When he opened it, a plain envelope slid across the floor. No return address. No name. Just silence in the corridor. Emily picked it up with trembling hands. Inside were photographs, grainy, taken from a distance. Pictures of her walking in the park, shopping for groceries, sitting on a bench with her journal. A note was tucked between the photos. The message was chilling in its simplicity. Stop what you're doing, or next time it won't just be pictures. Emily's hands shook so violently she almost dropped the note. He's watching me, she whispered, her voice breaking. Ryan knows where I am. Alex's jaw tightened, fury flashing in his eyes. He took the note from her, crumpling it in his fist. He crossed the line, he growled. He thinks he can intimidate you. He doesn't realize who he's dealing with. Emily's fear spiraled into panic. What if he hurts the baby? What if he tries to? Alex crouched in front of her, taking her trembling hands in his. Listen to me. He will not touch you. I promise you that. I will protect you, Emily. I will protect both of you. The next morning, Alex called a meeting with his security team. Men in dark suits filled the apartment, mapping out protocols, installing cameras, reinforcing doors. Emily watched in stunned silence as Alex transformed from the gentle friend she remembered into a man of power and authority. This isn't just business anymore, Alex told his head of security. This is personal. Ryan Cooper is not to get within a mile of her. If he tries, I want to know before he even breathes in her direction. Emily felt a mixture of awe and relief. For the first time, she wasn't alone in her fight. She had someone who believed in her enough to shield her, not control her. Meanwhile, in Austin, Ryan was furious when he heard back from his investigator. She's under heavy protection, the man reported. Reed has locked her down with top security. We can't get close. Sophia rolled her eyes, pacing the room. So what now? Do we just sit here and wait for her to destroy us? Ryan slammed his fist on the table. No. If she wants war, she'll get it. I'll find another way. His voice was low, dangerous, but Sophia saw something else in his eyes. Desperation. She began to wonder if she had tied herself to a sinking ship. Back in New York, Emily sat by the window that night, her hands resting on her stomach, her thoughts tangled with fear and determination. Alex joined her, placing a reassuring arm around her shoulders. Emily, he said softly, he won't win. You're stronger than him, and tomorrow we start fighting back on our terms. Emily nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on the city lights. Because deep down, she knew Ryan wasn't done yet, and his next move could be far more dangerous than intimidation. Ryan Cooper paced his office like a caged animal. His empire was collapsing piece by piece, and no amount of denial could hide it anymore. Clients had pulled out, investors had turned cold, and whispers of fraud were spreading like wildfire. His hands shook as he scrolled through his phone, seeing post after post about Emily's powerful speech at the gala. Sophia, perched on his desk with a glass of wine in hand, was losing patience. You're slipping, Ryan. She's out there making you look like a monster, and you're just sitting here watching your empire burn. Ryan snapped, slamming his fist on the desk. You think I don't know that? She was supposed to be finished. I made sure of it. Sophia leaned closer, her voice sharp. You didn't finish her, you made her stronger. And now, with Alex Reed backing her, she's untouchable. If you want to survive this, you need to act before she destroys you completely. But Ryan's arrogance was giving way to fear. She has something, he muttered. Proof. Someone gave her evidence at the gala. If she releases it, I'm done. Sophia's eyes narrowed. Then find it and destroy it, before she uses it. While Ryan and Sophia schemed, Emily was moving in the opposite direction. With Alex's lawyers and security team behind her, she began to prepare her case. They organized the documents, verified the bank records, and traced every illegal transaction Ryan had made. Each revelation was worse than the last. Ryan wasn't just corrupt, he had stolen millions. Emily sat in the conference room of Alex's office, papers spread before her. Her hands rested protectively on her stomach as she whispered, "This isn't just about me anymore. He's hurt so many people. It has to end." Alex nodded, his eyes filled with pride. You're not just fighting for yourself, Emily. You're fighting for justice. And when this comes out, the world will finally see him for who he really is. For the first time, Emily felt like she had control. She wasn't hiding in a hospital bed or crying in silence. She was planning, taking action. Her spirit, once crushed, was rising stronger than ever. Meanwhile, Ryan made one last desperate call to a shady contact. I need that evidence destroyed, he demanded. I don't care how. Just make sure it disappears. But fate was no longer on his side. The walls were closing in, and Sophia was beginning to see the cracks. She watched him with growing disgust. realizing that the man she once thought could give her everything was now a liability. Late that night, Emily and Alex stood by the window of his penthouse, looking out at the city lights. "Tomorrow," Alex said quietly, "we go to the authorities. Once we hand this over, Ryan won't be able to touch you again." Emily nodded, her heart steady for the first time in months. But what neither of them knew was that Ryan's hired men were already on their way to New York, with orders to intercept the evidence before it could be delivered. The next morning in New York, Emily woke with a sense of purpose. Today was the day. She and Alex were scheduled to meet with federal investigators, armed with the documents that would dismantle Ryan's empire once and for all. She placed a hand on her belly, whispering, "We're almost free, little one." But across the city, danger was already moving. Two of Ryan's hired men sat in a black SUV parked near Alex's penthouse. Their orders were simple: intercept Emily before she reached the authorities and take the evidence by any means necessary. Inside the apartment, Alex reviewed the final paperwork with Claire, his lawyer. "Everything checks out," she said. "Once this is in their hands, Ryan won't have a leg to stand on." Emily exhaled, nerves and relief battling inside her. "I just want it over," she murmured. Alex gave her a reassuring smile. "It will be. After today, he can't touch you again." When the elevator doors opened to take them down to the lobby, Emily's stomach clenched with unease. Something about the silence in the hallway felt wrong. The air was too still, too heavy. Alex noticed it too. He gently pulled her behind him, his protective instincts razor-sharp. As they stepped into the lobby, the men from the SUV moved in. One blocked the exit, the other reached into his coat. Emily gasped, clutching her stomach, while Alex immediately shifted into defense. "Stay behind me," he ordered. The taller man smirked. "We don't want trouble. Hand over the documents, and no one gets hurt." Alex's eyes darkened. Not a chance. Before the man could lunge, Alex's security team emerged from the shadows. Two guards tackled the men to the ground, disarming them within seconds. Emily stood frozen, her heart pounding as the chaos unfolded. The lobby echoed with shouts and the crash of bodies hitting the floor. Within moments, the attackers were restrained, their hands zip-tied behind their backs. One of them spat angrily, "You don't know what you're messing with. Ryan will destroy you." Alex's voice was calm but lethal. "No, Ryan just destroyed himself." Emily trembled, both terrified and relieved. The reality sank in. Ryan had truly tried to silence her, even if it meant putting her and the baby in danger. Tears welled in her eyes, but this time they weren't just from fear. They were from the clarity of truth. Ryan was capable of anything. The guards dragged the men outside, where police were already waiting. Alex wrapped his arm around Emily, pulling her close. "You're safe," he whispered. "I promised I'd protect you." But even as she leaned into his strength, Emily's resolve hardened. She couldn't just be safe. She had to fight back. Ryan had crossed the final line. As the police car pulled away with the attackers, Claire turned to them, her expression grim. "This isn't over. If Ryan is desperate enough to send men after you, he'll try again." Emily looked at Alex, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "Then we end it today. No more running. It's time the whole world sees exactly who Ryan Cooper really is." By noon that same day, Emily stood in the lobby of a federal building in New York City, her hands trembling as she clutched the folder of evidence. Alex stayed close, his steady presence grounding her, while Claire, the lawyer, spoke with the agents. The air felt heavy with anticipation. This wasn't just another meeting. It was the moment Emily turned the page on her old life. Inside a secure conference room, federal investigators examined the documents with stern expressions. They plugged the USB drive into a laptop, scrolling through spreadsheets of illegal transfers, fake signatures, and stolen funds. One agent looked up at Emily, his eyes sharp. "Where did you get this?" Emily swallowed hard. "It was delivered to me, anonymous. But I know it's real. I lived with him. I know how he worked." The agent nodded grimly. "This is more than enough to open a full investigation. Thank you, Miss Parker. You've just given us what we need to bring Ryan Cooper down." Relief washed over Emily, but also fear. Once this moved forward, Ryan would know it was her. There would be no hiding. Yet, for the first time, she didn't feel weak. She felt ready. Meanwhile, in Austin, Ryan was unraveling. He had just received word that two of his hired men had been arrested in New York. His phone buzzed again, an urgent call from a panicked associate. "Ryan, investigators are looking into your accounts. Something's happening." Ryan's face drained of color. "No, no, it can't be." Sophia stormed into the room, waving her phone. "It's everywhere," she hissed, shoving the screen in his face. Headlines blared across news sites. "Emily Parker Cooper speaks out. Evidence against Ryan Cooper handed to federal authorities." Photos from the gala accompanied the reports, Emily radiant at Alex's side. Ryan's hands shook as he read the articles. His name was plastered across every headline, not as a successful businessman, but as a fraud. "She betrayed me," he muttered, his voice hollow. Sophia snapped back, her patience gone. "Betrayed you? You did this to yourself. You thought she was weak, but look at her now. She's winning, Ryan, and you're finished." For once, Ryan didn't argue. His empire, built on lies, was crumbling faster than he could stop it. Back in New York, as Emily left the federal building with Alex and Claire, reporters swarmed outside, microphones shoved forward, cameras flashing. "Emily, is it true you gave evidence against Ryan Cooper? Do you fear for your safety? Is Alexander Reed your new partner?" Emily paused, her heart pounding. Then she lifted her chin and spoke firmly. "I lived in silence for too long. No more. The truth is out now, and I will not be intimidated." The crowd erupted, her words echoing across television screens and social media. But as Emily returned to Alex's car, a black SUV lingered across the street, its engine running. Inside, a familiar figure watched her every move, his eyes burning with rage. Because Ryan Cooper had just arrived in New York, and he wasn't leaving without a fight. Emily thought she could finally breathe after leaving the federal building. The evidence was no longer in her hands, it was in the hands of the law. But peace was short-lived. As Alex's car pulled into the driveway of his New York penthouse, a figure stepped out of the shadows. Ryan Cooper. His suit was wrinkled, his tie askew, his eyes wild with rage and desperation. He looked nothing like the polished businessman the world once admired. Security guards immediately moved forward, but Ryan raised his voice, shouting, "Emily, you can't do this to me." Emily froze, her pulse racing. The sight of him made her knees weak, but Alex stepped between them instantly. "Stay away from her, Ryan. You have no right to be here." Ryan sneered at Alex. "Of course you'd be here, the rich knight swooping in to save the broken little damsel. Tell me, Emily, is this what you wanted all along, to make me look like a fool while running into his arms?" Emily's hands trembled, but she forced herself to step out from behind Alex. Her voice was unsteady at first, but it grew stronger with each word. "No, Ryan, all I wanted was a husband who loved me. All I wanted was a father for my child, but you threw that away." Ryan's face twisted, torn between anger and regret. "You don't understand. I was under pressure. I needed more than you could give me." "Sophia? Don't you dare say her name," Emily snapped, her eyes blazing. "You didn't need more. You wanted more. You chose greed, betrayal, and violence, and now you've lost everything." A small crowd began to gather near the sidewalk. Neighbors, reporters, and bystanders pulled out their phones, recording every moment. Ryan's humiliation was no longer private. It was unfolding in the open. He glanced around, realizing the cameras were pointed directly at him. Panic flickered in his eyes, but he tried to mask it with bravado. "You think you're strong now, Emily? You think hiding behind Alex makes you powerful? Without him, you're still nothing." Emily's voice didn't waver. "You're wrong. I was something before you, and I'll be something after you. The difference is, now I know my worth." The crowd erupted in supportive murmurs, some even clapping. Ryan's face turned red, his pride shattering with each passing second. He lunged forward, desperate to grab her arm, but Alex intercepted him, shoving him back with controlled force. Security rushed in, pinning Ryan to the ground as the crowd gasped. Emily's heart pounded, her breath ragged. For a moment, fear gripped her, but then she saw Ryan's face pressed to the pavement, his power gone, his arrogance crumbling, and she realized she was no longer his victim. Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second. Ryan struggled against the guards, screaming, "You'll regret this, Emily. You hear me? You'll regret this." Emily stood tall, her hand resting on her belly, her voice calm as she replied, "No, Ryan. The only one who will regret is you." The sirens drew closer, because in just moments Ryan Cooper was about to be arrested, and his empire would collapse before the entire world's eyes. The flashing red and blue lights lit up the New York street as police cars screeched to a stop in front of Alex's building. The crowd outside thickened, phones raised high, eager to capture the downfall of the once proud Ryan Cooper. Two officers stepped out, their voices firm. "Ryan Cooper, you are under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and attempted intimidation. You have the right to remain silent." The words rang out like a death sentence. Ryan's face drained of color as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. He struggled, shouting desperately, "This is a mistake. I built everything. I'm not a criminal." But no one believed him anymore. The evidence Emily had delivered was ironclad. The witnesses had spoken. His empire, carefully constructed on lies, was collapsing in front of the entire city. Emily stood a few feet away, her hand resting on her belly, her heart pounding. Watching Ryan being dragged toward the squad car was surreal. This was the man who had once promised her forever, who had vowed to protect her, who had nearly destroyed her. And now, he was the one, powerless, humiliated in front of flashing cameras. Sophia appeared moments later, her face pale, her designer coat draped loosely over her shoulders. She shoved through the crowd, eyes blazing. "Ryan, what have you done?" Ryan's head jerked toward her. "Don't just stand there, Sophia. Tell them it's not true. You know me. You know I didn't do this." But Sophia's expression changed in an instant. The fear in her eyes hardened into cold calculation. She folded her arms, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "You think I'm going down with you? No, Ryan. You made your choices. I was just a bystander." Ryan's mouth fell open, betrayal written all over his face. "You, after everything I gave you?" Sophia cut him off with a bitter laugh. "Everything you gave me? You gave me nothing but empty promises and chaos. You're finished, Ryan, and I'm not sinking with you." The crowd erupted with gasps. Reporters scribbled furiously, capturing the final fracture of the couple that once flaunted their affair with arrogance. Ryan shouted as officers pulled him into the car, his voice cracking. "Emily, please, don't do this. I can change." Emily's eyes filled with tears, not of pity but of release. She stepped forward, her voice steady. "It's too late, Ryan. You had every chance. You chose cruelty. Now you face the consequences." The doors slammed shut, silencing his cries. The squad car drove away, leaving behind only the echo of Ryan Cooper's downfall. For Emily, it was more than vindication. It was freedom. The chains of fear, betrayal, and humiliation were gone. She turned to Alex, who wrapped a protective arm around her shoulders. The crowd began to cheer, chanting her name, celebrating her courage. For the first time, Emily didn't shrink from the attention. She embraced it. She wasn't just a survivor, she was victorious. But even as the night air filled with triumph, Emily felt a sudden sharp pain ripple through her stomach. Her hand flew to her belly, her face paling. Because while Ryan's chapter had ended, Emily's most important battle, the fight for her baby's life, was about to begin. The night after Ryan's arrest should have been filled with celebration, but Emily's sudden pain stole every breath from her lungs. Alex rushed her to the hospital, his heart pounding as he held her trembling hand. Nurses wheeled her into labor and delivery, their voices urgent yet calm. "She's early," one of them said, "but we'll do everything to keep both mother and baby safe." Emily's mind swirled with fear. The betrayal, the humiliation, the constant stress, it had all led to this moment. As contractions tore through her body, she whispered through gritted teeth, "Please, just let my baby be okay." Hours passed in a blur of pain and determination. Alex never left her side. He wiped her forehead, whispered encouragement, and held her hand through every agonizing push. At dawn, a cry filled the room, the sweetest sound Emily had ever heard. A tiny baby boy was placed gently on her chest. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "We made it, my love. We survived." Alex's eyes glistened as he gazed at Emily holding her son. "He's perfect," he said softly, "just like his mother." For Emily, the moment was more than the birth of her child. It was the rebirth of herself. She was no longer the broken woman who had been shoved into a tree, discarded by the man she trusted. She was a mother, strong and unshakable, holding a future that Ryan could never touch. News of Ryan's arrest spread like wildfire. Within days, his empire collapsed entirely. His assets were frozen, his associates abandoned him, and Sophia disappeared from his life without a trace. He sat in a cold jail cell, haunted by the choices that had destroyed him. The man who once believed he owned everything now had nothing. Meanwhile, Emily's life blossomed in ways she never imagined. Surrounded by Alex's unwavering support, she embraced motherhood with newfound strength. Alex didn't just protect her, he cherished her. Late at night, as he rocked the baby in his arms, Emily realized what love was meant to feel like: safe, patient, and unconditional. Months later, Emily walked into a sunlit garden in New York, her baby cradled in her arms, Alex at her side. Friends and family gathered, not in sorrow, but in joy. She wore a simple white dress, her smile radiant as she and Alex exchanged vows. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was better. It was real. As she spoke her vows, Emily's voice trembled with emotion. "I thought I was broken, but you reminded me that strength can rise from ashes and love can heal even the deepest wounds." Alex squeezed her hands, his voice steady. "You are the bravest woman I know, and I promise you'll never face another battle alone." Applause erupted, and as Emily kissed Alex under the golden sunlight, she felt peace for the first time in years. She had lost everything once, but she had gained something far greater: dignity, freedom, love, and a future for her child. Emily Parker was no longer a victim. She was a survivor, a mother, and a woman reborn. And her story would inspire others to remember: no betrayal, no cruelty, no storm could ever keep a strong heart from rising again. All right, my friend. So the story has finally come to an end. And if you're still here, still listening right now, I know there must be something about Emily's journey that touched your heart. Maybe it reminded you of pain you've carried quietly. Maybe it gave you hope that even in the darkest betrayal, a new beginning can rise. Emily's story isn't just a drama, it's a mirror. It reminds us that no matter how deeply we're broken, we can rebuild, stronger than before. The Stoics used to say, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Seneca's words still echo today. Emily imagined she was powerless, but when she faced reality with courage, she discovered her true strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And isn't that exactly what happened? The betrayal that should have destroyed her became the very fire that forged her new life. Life will hurt us. Sometimes by the hands of others, sometimes by fate itself. But healing doesn't mean forgetting the pain. It means transforming it. Just like Emily, you can take what was meant to bury you and use it as soil to grow. You can choose to protect your dignity, to rise again, to write a better ending for yourself. So if this story stirred something inside you, if it gave you courage or reminded you that you're not alone in your battles, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it. Maybe someone out there needs this story tonight as much as you did. Hit the like button, share this with a friend, and make sure to subscribe, because together we'll keep telling stories that heal, stories that remind us of our strength, and stories that prove no storm lasts forever.